As part of the Quality and Pedagogy Initiative introduced by Toronto Children's Services, you are asked to complete a self-assessment using the Assessment for Quality Improvement, or the AQI. Now that you have done so, you may be curious about your results. Although the scores are not our main focus, we understand that they provide a visible measure of quality. This allows us to celebrate our strengths and to identify our areas for improvement. The AQI measures quality in early learning environments using a 5-point scale. Quality expectations for early learning settings are assessed in the following way. A score of 1 or 2 does not meet quality expectations. A score of 3 does meet quality expectations. And a score of 4 or 5 exceeds quality expectations. It's not necessary that you score your self-assessment, but if you would like to do so, we're here to break it down for you. Throughout this video, we will show you examples of what it may look like to score your self-assessment. Let's use the domain of cots and bedding from the preschool section of the AQI. You will calculate your self-assessment after you have finished, so it's important that you complete the whole self-assessment before you begin the scoring process. Let's get started. Exceeding all quality expectations within a domain will result in a score of 5. This is achieved when the intention of each sub-item is met at the time of the assessment. Here's what the domain would look like with the score of 5. In the does not meet expectations column, the response to all the sub-items is no. In the meets expectations and the exceeds expectations columns, the response to all the sub-items is yes. A score of 4 is achieved by exceeding most quality expectations within a specific domain. Here's what the domain would look like with a score of 4. The response to all the sub-items in the does not meet expectations column is no, and the response to all the sub-items in the meets expectations column is yes. In the exceeds expectations column, the response to more than 50% of the sub-items is yes. In this case, there are 3 sub-items in the exceeds expectations column, so you would need to respond yes to 2 of them to achieve a score of 4. Now, if less than 50% of the sub-items in the exceeds expectations column are met, this would result in a score of 3. In this example, it would mean that only 1 sub-item was marked as yes. Here's another way to score a 3. The does not meet expectations column has all the sub-items marked as no. The meets expectations column has all the sub-items marked as yes. And the exceeds expectations column has all the sub-items marked as no. A score of 2 would be given if you have replied yes to 50% or less of the sub-items in the does not meet expectations column, or if you have replied no to any of the sub-items in the meets expectations column. For example, there are 4 sub-items in this column. If you have marked 1 of the 4 as yes, then the whole domain would be scored as 2. Here's another example. You have replied no to all the sub-items in the does not meet expectations column. However, you have marked 1 sub-item as no in the meets expectations column. This means that this domain would also be scored as a 2. A score of 1 would be given if you have replied yes to 50% or more of the sub-items in the does not meet expectations column. For example, there are 4 sub-items in this column. If you have marked 2 of the 4 as yes, then the whole domain would be scored as 1. A 1 would also be scored if a bolded sub-item in any of the interaction domains are marked as yes. Here's a list of the interaction-related sub-items that are bolded in the AQI. It's important to note that current Toronto Public Health guidance will have impacts on your self-assessment. Please refer to the relevant Toronto Public Health Appendix, as enhanced health and safety requirements will make certain sub-items of the AQI not applicable to your programs. Now that you have scored each domain, let's look at how the final score is calculated. The final calculation is an average of all the domains. You can do this by adding together the score of each domain and then dividing that number by the amount of domains in the section of the AQI. The infant and toddler sections have 24 domains. The preschool section has 31 domains, and the before and after school section has 12 domains. Let's imagine that we did a self-assessment of our kindergarten program. Here are our results for each domain. All of this added up is equal to 48. 48 divided by 12 is 4. This means that the average score of your kindergarten program is 4. You may notice, however, that certain domains may not be applicable to your program. This can be the case in the domain about media literacy because the children do not use any electronic devices such as tablets and computers, and they do not watch any movies or TV shows in your program. In this situation, domain 3 would simply be excluded from your equation. The addition of all domains would come to 45. 45 divided by 11 is 4.09. This would mean that the average score of your kindergarten program is 4.09. We would like to encourage you to focus on the process of this activity rather than the score it produces. Consider what new information came from this process. It is just as important to celebrate our strengths as it is to identify our areas for improvement. So congratulate yourself on your strengths, as there are so many of them to choose from. If you do have any questions throughout this process, please reach out to the Children's Services Collaborative team, who are always available to support you. You can also email qualityassurance@toronto.ca.